Hello everybody, my name is Brooklyn, otherwise known as TheDramaticOtaku, and welcome to the July and August WEEB Wrap Up of 2025. If you do not know what the WEEB Wrap Up is and is new here, first of all, like and subscribe. Thank you. Second of all, the WEEB Wrap Up is this bi-monthly review series in which I review everything that I have read and watched anime and manga wise over the last 2 months. Obviously, spoilers ahead for every single series that I talk about. And, well, let's just jump into it with July anime. This actually stumped me up because for the first time in forever, I'm actually watching a simulcasting show live. So, I am currently watching and have been watching There's No Way I Will Be Your Lover Unless, which is illustrated by the same person who made Whisper Me a Love Song. I did actually see the first volume of the manga in Minotaur a little while ago, but I hadn't picked it up. Then I saw the anime, like someone in the cosplay community recommended it to me, so I was like, let's watch it, but I haven't finished it. It is only up to about episode 6 of as of me recording this. So, technically, I only have one anime that I watched in July, and it is Plastic Near-san. I know last month, when I talked about Higurashi, I was just gooped and gagged about Rena's voice line from Higurashi making me just like a sleeper agent, as well as being able to put a name to the face of the ultimate yandere Shion. But back in my day, anime cracks were all over my YouTube feed, and there was some fucking insane out of context clips that when I watched them I would hopefully one day find out the full context of these clips. The problem is, it was really hard to find what animes were what in these anime cracks, because usually you're overlapping shit. And so yes, one day I wanted to find out the context of all of those crazy batshit clips. Because why is a baseball player stripping down by flexing his muscles, then humping the air at a group of teenagers? I was so desperate to find out the context of that clip when I was younger, because I was like, what the fuck is this? Is this in that one baseball anime? Come to find out, so many of these insane clips come from a gag high school anime whose total runtime of the entire anime reaches just about 30 minutes, including all the openings and endings, whose episodes are about 2 minutes each, shorter than Hetalia, and finding out that all of those out of context clips were 90% of the time in context, because there is no other scenario outside of the context of that scene. I found the full season of Plastic Near-san, an anime about a high school model building club who go and do anything and everything under the sun because it's fun, because they want to. That's it. That is the synopsis. I found this anime fully on YouTube and watched the entire season while waiting for Baby No Money tickets to drop. That is how quickly I ran through this anime. Seeing as I can't talk about the plot because there is none, it's a gag anime that is 2 minutes long per episode, I will share some gags that I have seen that I was so surprised to see in this anime. Like, this anime apparently had a fucking chokehold on anime YouTube and the anime crack making community in the mid 2010s, and I had no fucking idea, and I could not connect the dots. Number 1, Near-san getting shoved into the wall. I thought this clip was from a K-On! Styled anime. Thought it was for like something completely different. So to see it here, first of all, was very surprising. Number 2 is this specific dance. If anybody has seen any like fun and silly AMVs or MEPs or the such, maybe the Anime's Got Talent multi-editor project, this fucking dance was there. It was rotoscoped, screened in, and it's one of those dances that's just funny to green screen into your video, like the Chica dance. What I didn't know is that this was supposed to be some kind of weird fucking punishment where she's shaking her ass with a bag between her legs to fuck with her friend. I don't think anybody realized that who just saw the clip in a multi-editor project. And I also don't think I realized that the thing between her legs was a bag. Number 3, I've already described this one. It's the baseball player. This is the one scene where I guarantee before watching my video you have seen this specific episode somewhere, because this isn't just a scene, it is a full episode of this anime. I think it is the number 1 what the fuck anime clip of all time. What I didn't know, as I have said, is that this clip is the full context of this scene. There is no before this scene, there is no after. It is this scene. I thought originally this scene would be in a comedy anime like One Punch Man or a parody of a sports anime. Maybe, I think it was, I thought it might be in like one of the many baseball animes there are, and that surely there had to have been more to this scene than just this. No. This was literally the entire episode, and that absolutely rocked my fucking world, because what do you mean that's the entire episode? I can't say this wasn't interesting and weirdly nostalgic, seeing that I've clearly seen half of the anime without even realizing it by having so consistently watched different anime cracks when I was younger. And I am a little sad that to a lot of these scenes there isn't some greater context, especially in that first one where there is so much effort put into the wall slam. I really thought it would be for just something much bigger, for a much bigger anime than this. So yeah, overall, for a 30-minute long anime, I gave it a 6 out of 10. I'm just wow. And once again, I found this on YouTube. Once again, for July, I did watch There's No Way I'll Be Your Lover Unless, but I am still watching that. So you'll probably not hear about that until September, to be quite honest, if it's 12 episode anime. But that being said, let's move into July manga. Okay, there is so much more in July manga than there was July anime, and that is because I went to Sydney. I read a lot this month. And that's not only in the fact that I read like massive books, but also slightly smaller ones. We're gonna start off with the 2 that I did not get in Sydney. Oh, sorry, the 3, but technically 2 different series. We're gonna start with Otaku Vampires Love Bite, volumes 2 and 3. I wrote very short, what's it called, reviews for these, solely because my heart's in it. I really do love these books, but it's really hard to fathom my thought processes with these books here. Starting with volume 2. Continuing off of the first volume, volume 2 introduces a new character, Victor, the servant of Hina's father. I decently like this volume. There's not a massive amount to say, other than I like that there's a queer main character in Hoshino. He's gay, in love with Amanatsu, and I only know he is male because the club he's in states as much. I still think that Hoshino is more genderqueer, but they have actually stated that Hoshino is male. So 7 out of 10, I really liked this one. I think it's really cute, and Hoshino not being able to tell Amanatsu he's a vampire is really sad. Then moving forward is volume 3. I actually didn't write a review of this one before I went to Sydney. I just, for some reason, liked this slightly more than the last volume. I think there were moments where I actually genuinely got disappointed for Amanatsu, where he got misled by Hina. And I really wanted him to like get behind the camera of Hina's cosplay rather than be in costume with Hina. As like in the story, Amanatsu gets really, really happy when Hina likes his photos. So the fact that he wasn't actually behind the camera to be able to take photos of Hina makes me sad. Genuinely, that actually makes me really sad for the character. There is a lot more cute moments in this volume, but I feel like it would have been way cuter if Amanatsu was actually taking the photos for Hina. That's all I really remember about volume 3, but I did give it a 7.5. The slightest bit more liked than this. I do still really like the series, and it is very cute. Anyway, moving forward, so I've left it up here behind all of these and behind my favorite lesbian, that's Joke. Paradise Kiss, big ass book. I had to wait until I finished Neighborhood Story to read this book, and I'm very, very glad that I did. It is the sequel to Neighborhood Story, and I read this in full in Sydney, and I have some feelings about it. First of all, thank fuck Yukari ends up with Hiro and not George. Paradise Kiss is the sequel to Neighborhood Story, but instead I'm focusing on Hiro, Arashi, and Miwako, the children and siblings of the characters in Neighborhood Story. It focuses on a new character, Yukari, who doesn't know what she wants to do in life other than what Yukari's mum had set for her. Then comes along George and Paradise Kiss. The story of a girl becoming a model and taking her life into her own hands is certainly interesting, but I am just so very conflicted with George as a character. I don't like him. I, like Yukari, do not understand him, and the story felt like it was running around in circles. It was clear that Yukari and George had something, whether it was attraction, George thinking Yukari to be his muse, or something else. What I don't think it was love. Really do not think those two were in love. No. The plot of George being in love with another girl comes up, and I lost a lot of interest in this Yukari and George pairing. Once again, the second the main character has to fight for the affection of the love interest, you have lost my interest. When all this is dissolved in the second to last chapter, I was very happy. Did I think it was sweet that Yukari got all the dresses that George made? Yes. It clearly means she meant something to him, but not as much as he means to Yukari. I like the Yukari and Hiro dynamic for the reason, one, there was actual attraction there. They do genuinely have a crush on each other, so there is like a viable reason for them to get together. And it is genuinely a great pairing. Two, they both understand each other on a level of knowing that they are not each other's the one that got away, a person who is so important to them and to their heart. It is a bittersweet ship, I definitely think that, but I was happy that that was what Yukari's ending was. Now, there is two things that I must mention that have stuck in my head, one that I love and one that I hate. Let's start with the one that I hate. Miwako and Arashi, mainly the information that was provided to us at the end of the story, with Arashi sexually assaulting Miwako for her first time, and as a result, when Arashi is upset, to mediate this, Miwako will give up her body. Up until Arashi and Hiro speak, I didn't really understand that was happening, and I just thought they were just a cute couple. But no, clearly not, that was not happening. I thought they were just a cute couple, but that conversation between them recontextualizes everything in the story. I'm glad to see that Arashi is regretful and uncomfortable when confronted, and does change his behaviors when confronted by another guy, and the fact that it was a guy who had to call him out. That's all I really have on that specific topic, but it is something that stuck to my mind, and I can't just like unwind it, you know? Now, the thing that I love was more so a character that I really loved, this being Isabella. She's a trans character, male to female, and she is dearly loyal to George. They're childhood friends, and George is one of the only people to take care of Isabella and really help her come into her own. I was really happy when she went with George in the end, and not so much for George's sake, but for Isabella's. As a character, I love that she can be crass and smug, but also a very enigmatic character. I love her story development, and I find it really fun that she's basically like Ayazawa's talking piece throughout this story, the fourth wall breaking character of the entire bunch, with sometimes George being thrown in there. It's really hard to describe, but I've read a lot of trans characters in media, and Isabel is just one of my favorites. She's just a very fun character. Paradise Kiss is another story and another case of me saying that I can't say I wasn't entertained when reading, but my enjoyment of the main couple really dragged the series into a ditch for me, one that I really struggled to get out of. There was good moments, it had good characters and my favourite sections, but with my main issue being the toxic relationship between George and Yukari, the main couple that the story focuses on, it can be a really frustrating read. I really preferred Neighborhood Story, and what Yukari and George have in this story is very, very similar to Bodyco and her boyfriend at the very start of the series throughout Neighborhood Story. And you know, I really didn't like that ship in Neighborhood Story, so why the fuck would you make an entire romantic coupling of that as your sequel and as the main characters? I really didn't like that part. It could be extremely frustrating to read at some points, so I gave it a 6.5. Yes, I enjoyed it less than Otaku Vampire Love Bite. So now we move into the books that I actually bought in Sydney, starting with How to Deal When Your Intimidating Neighbor is actually an Omega. Left me wanting more of an Omegaverse series, as this is a one-shot. It has an interesting concept. Hull was shown, didn't expect Linger liked Cook to be in it. I gave it a 5.5 out of 10. Next. I Don't Know Which Is Love Volume 2. Okay. I am no better than a man. Riri is my favourite character, the character on the front cover, and I really want her to get with May, but also I don't mind Karen. I just kind of prefer Riri as a character, while I just prefer Riri. While this is not as funny as Volume 1, I do go all gooey over the lesbian harem concept, and that is why I started watching I Won't Be Your Lover Unless. I like that May gets a scene or a chapter with each member in the volume, and I can't really fathom any more opinions because women. I will say that I like there's a bit more story progression than fan service, but there is still a decent amount of fan service. I gave this an 8 out of 10. Yes, this is bias. This is my series, shut the fuck up. Continuing on, we have 2 volumes of Orange. You know, the series I finished. There was 2 more volumes! Now, I'm gonna say, first of all, I did a fuck up. I read these backwards. This one I was supposed to read first, and then this one. I read Orange to You Dear One first. This is supposed to be the complete end of the series. But genuinely these can kind of be read either way. But I didn't know there was 2 stories, 2 after stories, or rather 2 finishing stories to Orange. And I got so pissed when I saw this in Kinokuniya, because I was originally only supposed to buy like 2 or 3 volumes, and then when I saw these 2, knew I had to add them to my collection, and so I ended up getting like 5 books. Kinokuniya is a dangerous place, but I don't think I would have found these otherwise. Orange to You Dear One is the future of Kakeru and the friends who we follow in the main story as compared to the future versions of them trying to save Kakeru. It picks up roughly where we left off in the main story, with the other characters reacting to the letters that they got and how they apply them to interacting with Kakeru. But not as isolated one-shots like initially thought when picking up the book, but as shifting perspectives of their last year in high school and into the future, then 10 years into the future, where Kakeru and Naho get together and have a little boy. In all honesty, I was a little checked out when reading this, but liked the exploration of Kakeru's thought processes and more. We only got a little section at the end of the omnibus mangas, so having 2 dedicated chapters just from Kakeru's perspective made me really happy. I keep fucking up that child's name. There is an end story at the end of this volume that combines another one of Ichigo Takano's work, which I wasn't super interested in. It's like a completely different manga series that they melded as a crossover with this one. I don't know the other series, so I'm just like not interested. So I gave this a 6 out of 10. Being checked out doesn't really help me reading and reviewing manga. Then would be this manga right here, Scars. Now I'm not going to take this off of the shelf because then I have to put it back in its pretty little place. It's just going to stay there. Scars Volume 1. I picked this up at the bookshop Darlinghurst again. And as you can see on screen, there's a lot in this series. This is brutal. This is a brutal manga. Scars is the story about I can't pronounce his name properly. Kyonosuke, a boy who is regularly bullied about the scar spanning across his face. At age 15, due to money issues, Kyonosuke is forced to go back out to regular high school, where he is continuously bullied by his bully Kenta. At school, he meets Akira, the first person to actually befriend him. As him and Akira hang out, he ends up falling in love with Akira, but it turns out the girl he fell in love with was born a boy. Kyonosuke, unbothered by Akira's gender, reassures her that her gender doesn't matter to him and that they are officially in love. Their families, however, not quite as accepting. I will say the last chapter of the volume gives me a little bit of hope for them, but with a projected 5 volumes, I know some shit is coming for these characters, and based on how they were treated in Volume 1, I am scared. This manga, I will say, can be potentially very triggering for people. Every chapter has some form of abuse, bullying, and physical violence. There's only one that doesn't, and that is the last chapter, which gives the main characters a small, brief moment of positivity, before leaving us with dread as Kyonosuke's parents hire a private investigator to hunt him down. And I do think hunt him down is probably an accurate description. I will say there were a few times where I felt genuine shock in this manga. Like 1, Kyonosuke's helicopter protective ass parents doing a 180 and slapping him when he said the person he liked was born a boy, and 2, Akira's hair being cut. Having actually read the author's afterword and finding out a big motivation for him was it Good Morning Pun Pun? That's the kind of shit you're gonna see in this manga. So if you know anything about that manga, brutal coming into this manga right here. This is actually very interesting. I like this a lot. Not so much for the brutality of it, but just because this is the first time in a while I've been genuinely shocked by a manga and really just want to see the best for these characters. So that is all for Scars Volume 1. Again, I bought this at the bookshop Darlinghurst. Read with caution. That is what I have to say. Read this book with caution. Yeah, I didn't give this a rating. I don't think I can, in essence, give this a rating. So, for the first time in history, an unrated volume of manga. Now, going back to Orange. Orange Future. This was supposed to be read before this, but these have 2 different textures, and I thought this would be like way after this. I'm just a dumbass. This volume was solely from Suma's perspective and his guilt at getting with the girl both him and his best friend loved. The first half of this volume is the timeline of the main story, so the version of Suma, Kakeru and all that who are trying to save Kakeru, versus the latter half of this story, which is the reality in which Kakeru dies. I gave this one a 5 out of 10. Yes, less than the Omegaverse manga, solely because there is a big, like, persecution complex, which I understand does happen and is a part of the grieving process, but it was just a lot in this. Very self-pitying of Suma, which does, like, I don't know how to feel. I just really didn't like this compared to the rest of the manga and compared to this volume right here. So I gave it a 5, and that is all of my manga for July. So moving on to August. Art. If you're wondering why I'm recording with the front-facing camera, it's because it's the only angle to make this art look half decent. We, in the August section of this video, will be talking about art, yaoi, fashion. I'm wearing a beret on a beret. Fashion innovation right here. And if you say that's not a beret and that's not a beret, go fuck yourself. Don't actually. If you're wondering how the fuck I got this, I have an arsenal of them. They all need to be debuted. You can't even see my shirt. The self-promo shirt is back. Welcome to the August manga. We don't have manga. Well, okay, no, that's a lie. We do have manga. It is that. That is the manga for August. And on this channel, if I have to read that, it is its own separate video. And since it's Junji Ito and we are heading into September, that is not coming out until October because I have another manga to upload with it. So, yes, for manga of 2025 August, I only read The Liminal Zone. I gave it a 7. Into August anime, we have 4 series. Well, we have 3-ish series, 2 that come from the same OVA series. And yes, by the fact that I said OVA series, we will once again be talking about the Boy Blank series. Oh my god, this boy is fucking singing in italics. The yaoi series that, is kind of growing out of problems with yaoi ham-fisted into the plot. You'll see what I mean later. But before we get into the short series yaoi and to the end of this OVA series, because I didn't know it was a series, I thought it was like 2 anime, because I didn't even know the first one existed. I just knew about the mermaid. So I got a cheap subscription, resubscription should I say, to Crunchyroll for like $3. So I'm like, fuck it, let's get that for 2 months, and binge watch as much anime as physically possible on Crunchyroll. I did decide to take advantage of that, but I did also decide to make the mistake of watching 2 currently simulcasting series, luckily for me, not on Crunchyroll, so I don't have to be stuck to them forever, but I'm watching 2 simulcasting series, this being I Won't Be Your Lover Unless... Oh, No Way I'll Be Your Lover. No freaking way I'll Be Your Lover Unless... And The Summer Hikaru Died. Yes, the books are somewhere in here. The Summer Hikaru Died, I've watched that simulcasting, and I've watched There's No Freaking Way I'll Be Your Lover Unless. Because they are currently simulcasting, I will not be reviewing them until the next WEEB wrap up. So let's get into something that I actually watched the full series of in August. This being Princess Jellyfish, and thus fashion. That is such an insult to Princess Jellyfish. But Princess Jellyfish. Now, this is a series that I have been vaguely interested in. I've seen a lot of people who like Nana or like Ayazawa recommend Princess Jellyfish. And I can see why. I would like to get my hands on the manga. I know there are box sets out there that I would like to get. I might get that for myself for Christmas. But Princess Jellyfish, the anime. So I must disclose this before we get into this review, that the day I watched the entire series, because I binged in a day, because it's only 11 episodes, my head was in a very cloudy place, and so that affected my viewing experience and the way that I reviewed this anime. I think it made me relate much more to Tsukimi more than I normally would. Tsukimi as a protagonist is a little gloomy, but it's an early 2000s shoujo rom-com type beat with a fashion makeover element. The main character is going to be gloomy. I love the wallflower for the same fucking reason. This gloominess is a normal trait in a lot of early 2000s rom-com shoujos with a fashion spin. And normally it is a trait that annoys me in these kinds of shoujo protagonists. But Tsukimi felt different. I don't know if it's because I saw my own mindset in Tsukimi. I wanted to see how her character transforms, which admittedly is not a lot. She's kind of cyclic in the anime, and I can only assume that in the manga there is more, especially after episode 11, in terms of like manga progression and character progression in Tsukimi, or they didn't quite translate it correctly from the manga to the anime. I hope there's more growth for Tsukimi in the manga, as I would like to go out and get it. It's been a while since there was a series where I was so desperate to read the manga because of how the anime ended. I really need to read the manga for Jellyfish Princess because the anime really felt like the right thing to watch at that time. Something I needed and didn't really know, or didn't realize it. As someone who has seen Jellyfish to be actual dress inspiration in the past, I felt weirdly connected to the story in mostly unexpected ways, but in some ways that I did expect, being a big fan of Neighborhood Story. Personally, I think this is the worst review I've ever done of an anime, despite the fact that I have continuously neglected to actually, summarize the anime. But I think this one is probably my worst proper review of an anime, because it's the most emotionally driven and the most emotionally written. Of course, there are things I dislike about Princess Jellyfish. The blackmailing plotline for Shu. The blackmailing, roofie distributing, office lady who wants to destroy the place where Tsukimi feels the most herself, potentially actually falling in love with her victim, and said victim potentially having reciprocating feelings. Not a fan of that. I think that is crazy. I feel like more could have been done with Shu in that aspect, but I do like how Shu is really just a crush for Tsukimi, a transitional thing that sort of goes nowhere, how that it's Shu's role in the series, but his plot with Inari, the chick that roofied him, is weird. I don't like it. I think it's just plot fodder. I don't understand why it's there. Maybe to get Shu out of the picture, but why couldn't you have just given him, an actual love interest? I also don't know what the hand thing Shu did was in the series. Why is that so significant? I didn't quite understand that. The whole Shu and Inari plot feels weird, and sometimes I'm left confused as to why we are following these characters. I love Kyonosuke. He is such a fun character. I I love this character so much. And I love how he devolves when he starts to realize he actually has feelings for Tsukimi. I also love that Tsukimi doesn't really care that he's a cross-dresser for fun, and how her main issue is making sure that the women of Amamizukan don't know that he's actually a man. I think in the terms of the women of Amamizukan, I weirdly felt a lot like Mayaya. Like, she is the character who, if I translated whole SMP to Jellyfish, Princess Jellyfish, I feel like I would be Mamaya. And she's just a character that I relate to a lot, despite the fact that I have no love for her interests, and at times I think she is very annoying. It's probably the drama of her character that I like. She does have her moments that are really silly and goofy. TheDramaticOtaku. Of course I would love this character. I think she's silly and fun. I also love the chauffeur, I don't remember his name, but the chauffeur who's just in love with his Mercedes-Benz. Every comment he gave got a decently good laugh from me, and his attitude as well, I thought it was very funny. Even if the story of Princess Jellyfish, at least in the anime, is a little bit muddy, isn't always straightforward as well, the characters really do sell the series, and it makes like the series that much more enjoyable. This has been such a ramble of a review that I've written down. Literally, if I speak like this on camera, it's usually because I haven't scripted out the review. This is a scripted review, so you can tell where my head was at when I actually wrote it. So, moving forward, I gave the series an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. It was just the series that I needed at the time. And so yeah, I gave it an 8 out of 10. Moving forward, we move on to This Boy Suffers from Crystallization. And I am so not a fan. This being the third of my reviews of the This Boy series. Now, I liked the mermaid one because as a theme with all of these OVAs, ONAs, whatever, they all have some sort of like theme with youth and with like developing. I liked the mermaid one because it was dealing with death and dealing with grief and stuff like that, and also because something that is also very common with this series clearly is the dynamic of a mentor or an older man with a student. So, not the biggest fan. So, This Boy Suffers from Crystallization. The main character, I don't remember his name, and I literally just watched the anime. He suffers essentially from social anxiety, which is deemed as crystallization. So he's literally like freezing and crystallizing the more nervous he gets. And the only person he can rely on is his literal teacher, who is very into crystals. Not a fan, because the main character keeps saying, "Oh, do you want to touch my crystal?" which is definitely an innuendo. And it feels that way in the short. Now, I will give the thing its props. The teacher won't get with the student until he's graduated, but that's still really fucking weird, a weird dynamic. I don't like the dynamic. And compared to the other two, like the first one, I didn't realize it was a series, and so I was sort of just analyzing it, and it was more of a found family thing than a yaoi thing. This one swings definitely more into trying to push that romance aspect, which I don't like, because it's a student-teacher relationship. With the mermaid one, there's like a plausible deniability that the mermaid, like while looking older, you don't know the mermaid's age. So it's like, you don't know, it's a mythical creature. You don't know what age that fucking mermaid is, and this kid is like suffering with the death of his grandfather. So the first one was all about self-worth. Second one was about grief. This one is about social anxiety. But this one, for some reason, I don't know if it's just I wasn't paying attention as clearly to the other two, but this one, like, focuses a lot more on the relationship between the two characters, and I think it's just worse because it is such like power dynamic kind of relationship with a student and a teacher. And that's probably why I like it the least. So I'm giving this like a 3. No, I'm giving it a 2. Just because, like, I don't like this one. I just don't. There's no reason for me to give it higher. The art style is about the same. Actually, I think the mermaid one has the best, like, through art style out of all of them. I really wasn't a fan of This Boy Suffers from Crystallization, so I'm going to give this one a 2. I like the metaphor of crystallization for social anxiety. That is about it. And I guess the art is somewhat pretty, but it's not as good as the mermaid one. So this one gets a 2. I don't remember what I gave. I think I gave the mermaid one a 6. So that tells a lot. So yeah. Frieren, Beyond Journey's End. Frieren is an elf mage whose lifespan is an eternity compared to a human. At the beginning of the series, we see the return of the party of heroes, Himmel, Haita, Ikson, and Frieren. Having saved the land from the Demon King's rule after a grueling 10-year journey, after their success, the group watch a meteor shower that occurs every 50 years, vowing to see each other as a group again for the next one. Which, after seeing the meteor shower, Frieren then decides that she's going to spend the next 50 years exploring the land for spells, for herbs, and just to generally gain more mage knowledge. 50 years later, the group come together again. An elderly Himmel and Haita and an aged Ikson all go on one last journey with Frieren, after which Himmel dies. Frieren, feeling regretful that she didn't get to know her friend in his life, does her most to visit Ikson and Haita in their later years. During this time, Haita adopts a young girl named Fern and asks Frieren to teach her as a maid. After Haita's death, and a little bit of plot development in which Frieren is visiting Ikson and this, that, and the third, Frieren and Fern set off to, I can't pronounce this one, Oriole, heaven. So Frieren can once again talk to Himmel the hero, and maybe so Fern can see Haita again. Ikson's apprentice Stark being picked up along the way, because Stark had a fight with Ikson. As a binge watcher of the first season of this series, as a second season is coming out in January of next year, I like how each episode tends to be a dynamic of a plot starting midway through one episode and ending in the next. It makes a really nice rhythm and a through line through each episode. Then, of course, that structure of something starting in the middle of one episode and ending in the middle of the next dies off in the first class mage arc. An arc that I dislike. So, it's a similar thing to what I dislike in Mashal, and the reason why I haven't actually watched most of the second season of Mashal. It's the whole structure of a lot of new characters, and there's some sort of battle or competition, and it's just a never-ending cycle of hurdles, in which the protagonist, in this case Frieren, may overcome by going essentially Super Saiyan. Now, Frieren, being OP as fuck in this series, has genuine grounding, which makes sense, and that I actually really like. It's based in the reality of the canon of the show, and that makes me happy because she's an old as fuck mage who can wipe out literally every other mage that's there, because she has got literally like millennia of experience compared to those guys. But she still has to go through these trials, which is really annoying to me. I like that it's genuinely grounded in the canon of the series. It makes me happy because there's none of this like power of friendship level up. She's like genuinely trained because she has a millennia of experience over all of her other competitors. It's very logical in a battle strategy kind of way, and that's what I really like. All the like thought that's put into why Frieren is genuinely better than all of these other mages. I still dislike the arc because it pads out over several episodes per test, And that's the kind of thing that I dislike in a lot of anime when they have battle arcs that go over a couple of episodes. It just feels too elongated and is a big reason why I have stopped watching stuff like My Hero Academia, because of the several episode long battles. I will say, in terms of the 3 tests of the First Class Mage arc, I do dislike the first test the least. The second test kind of swung me around more, and obviously the third test is 1 episode. So it does annoy me that it's the mage test that ended the season out. Something progress, something sidetracked, something too many battles. But I did enjoy the characters of this arc, much like with Princess Jellyfish, where the plot was kind of muddy, but I really love the characters. It is something similar in Frieren in this arc, where it's not necessarily the story of the arc that pushes me through, it's the characters of the arc that pushes me through, and I hope to see more of these characters in the future, much like Frieren. My things that I love from the arc that I dislike. One, I'm gonna fuck up her name, Lovine? I don't know if it's Lavine, because that's what it sounded like, or Lavine, or Lawine. It sounds like they're saying va in it. Lawine and Kane, favorite lesbians. They're lesbians. You can't tell me otherwise. Those two are lesbians. And in the last episode, I actually got really sad because I realized that Himmel had been loving Frieren for his entire life. If you're like me and do believe that Himmel was in love with Frieren like I do, then that just makes me really sad. Oh my gosh. The critically acclaimed anime is actually really good. Who could have thought? Shock horror. Anyway, Frieren is absolutely adorable as a series. I think it's really funny, really goofy. Frieren as a character is really fun. I really love her. I also love Fern. My hair is kind of Fern's hair color. My hat is kind of Fern's hair color. It's a really funny and joyful anime. As someone who isn't a massive fantasy fan, who doesn't like that kind of world building lore, doesn't necessarily go into that stuff that often. I'm much more of a magical girl, history, romance. All of these are semi-grounded in reality. I'm not much of a fantasy fan. I don't read fantasy novels that often. If I do, it's usually got some kind of gimmick. So as someone who's not a massive fantasy fan, I really liked this series. And that's saying a lot. This boy is a wizard. But unlike in the other 3 series, he's not a boy, he's a grown man. So, this one was very different from the other ones. First of all, it's the only one that's been split into 4. I feel like I've said all of this before. I'm getting a great sense of deja vu. You tend to in these kinds of series. Genuinely, I mean, especially after watching Frieren, I like this one for different reasons to why I may like the other ones. So, this boy series, once again, dealing with some sort of insecurity in the protagonist. In this one, it was really interesting. I don't know what about it. Maybe it's the dynamic, the fact that they're both adults. But the love interest was kept in the dark for most of it, which I guess is similar to the mermaid one. Didn't necessarily like that it was cut up. Would have liked it if it was 1 episode, but I can see if it was airing, okay, that's why it was cut up into 4. I like the setting more. It has more character in that sense. And I mean the fact that it's office wizards, but not really wizards. They're basically firefighters or crisis carers of some form, but they're wizards, so they can just do shit immediately by themselves. I think it's because I focused more on the last 2 episodes. There wasn't a massive amount of the love interest. There was barely any of his character. but a lot into the psyche of the main character. And I feel like it goes to a stronger depth than the other ones, and it's really hard to describe why. I like it. Like, originally when I started this, I did not want to watch it because of the previous one. Because of the crystallization one, I didn't want to watch this one. I'm kind of glad I did, because then this whole series has ended off a little bit on a high note. I would probably give this one a 6. At the start, I was so not interested, as I said. I just like the dynamic of it more, and it being in smaller episodes does give a little more character, speeds things up a little bit in the series, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm giving this one a 6 out of 10. It's a very short series. The first 2 episodes I thought were really boring. They're 7-minute episodes instead of 23-minute episodes, so I don't know why that's the case. It's basically the same fucking length. And these have openings and endings on each episode. So, for the shorts for this little one, I thought it was decent. 6 out of 10. Let's end the video. So that is all for my August, because I can't really just say it was anime because there was manga, but it's mostly anime, which is shock horror. Oh my god. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, let me know down in the comments below. Do you have any recommendations for me? I will be taking them. And I will see you guys in the next video next week. Same time, same place. I've got some really exciting things coming for you in September. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.